Grotto, Greg Anna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing amazing and so excited to talk to Mrs. Gilligan.
Yes, we have Mrs. Gilligan, Dreama Denver, on the show as she releases her Island to Icon to commemorate America's favorite castaway. 60 years, Gilligan Island celebrates 60 years. How are you, Dreama? Thanks for stopping by.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I am great. 60 years. I feel old, that's for sure. But 60 years, can you believe that?
I
60.
I can't believe it. 60 years. So let's kind of go with Greg's first question. Go, Greg.
Well, I just want to ask you this before we jump in all over your husband and so on. So, you've got this cool connection I found out to another famous Denver, John Denver. So, what's the story there? And did it lead to any memorable Denver family moments?
No. Well, first, let me explain for those who don't know that John Denver was really John Deutschendorf. But because of his love for the Rocky Mountains, he changed his last name to Denver, his professional name. So there was no actual blood relation there, but we loved him. We loved his music. Bob was always asked to sing Rocky Mountain High. And I'm sure that John was probably asked to holler Skipper, every once in a while. But the connection there is that, I live in the great state of West Virginia. And that song that John wrote and sang, Country Roads, Take Me Home, Almost Heaven, West Virginia. I spearheaded the effort to have that adopted as an official state song for West Virginia. So when it passed unanimously. It was a no-brainer as far as I was concerned. But when I did that, I did get telegrams from his children thanking us and saying how excited their father would be to know that that had happened. So there is a connection there, but not a blood relation connection.
That's why that's a wild way to start out the show. We're talking because you can get the two Denvers mixed up for a second, right? Bob and John, ultimately two of the best Denvers. But I didn't know that story. That's really intriguing. And how did you meet your husband? Tell us the story of that.
I was an actress back in the day and primarily on stage. And I was visiting my family in Orlando, Florida, when a friend called and said they're auditioning for a Play It Again Sam, a Woody Allen play in St. Petersburg. You should audition because you're perfect for the female lead. So I did, and I got the part. And I was talking to the producer after she told me I had the part. And I said, well, who's going to be starring in the show? And she said, Bob Denver. And I went, Gilligan? And she said, yes. And I said, seriously? I'm going to have to do love scenes with Gilligan? And she was like, well, if you want the part, yeah. And I went, well, I definitely want the part. Little did I know that those love scenes would last for almost 30 years.
That's amazing.
That's
You
crazy.
know,
Wow. Wow. Good.
Dreamer, Gilligan and the Gilligan's Island, the whole show, so many amazing moments. I mean, the theme song, you still can't get that out of your head once it starts going. The
Yeah.
Marianne versus Ginger debate that everybody talks about.
They call
Um,
that the ultimate dilemma, is what they call that.
what
So
what do you think gave the show that magical, lasting pop culture quality, and why it's such a status today still?
pop culture, it's part of everything that ever happens in the world. It doesn't matter what it is. Gilligan always finds its way in there. I think this was Bob's answer, and I don't have a better one, so I'm going to give you his answer. He felt that the longevity was due to the fact that you could not place the show in any particular time period. If you took that show today, the color version, obviously, if you took that show and put it, a bunch of kids in an auditorium and put it on the big screen, they would think it was brand new because it still holds up visually. It's a beautiful show, obviously, on islands with, greenery and flowers and oceans and all that stuff. So I really think that is it. I also think as we've gone along in time, I feel like all of us who grew up with it hark back to that simpler time. It feels like a simpler time. Whether or not it actually was, it felt like, just so much more innocence. And TV was more innocent then. Everything was. So I think that would be my answer, and then Bob's answer is the correct answer, which is, you can't put it in any particular time period. Most shows back in those days, you would be able to, Father Knows Best was definitely in the 50s and 60s. And, you could tell by the furniture and the cars and the phones and all that. But Gilligan didn't have any of those things.
And I think the storyline is just something where how could you live on an island for that long, right? And all these
Right.
different people, and then have certain people in specific roles to keep the island going in a way
Yes.
that's funny and comedic. Do you
Yes.
know of any of the, did you write in your book any stories of why they came up with the whole storyline for Gilligan's Island? What was the
Yes.
reasoning?
Well, I've written two books. I have a new one, obviously, which is the one we're talking about. But I wrote a book called Gilligan's Dreams, which was my memoir about my 30-year marriage to Bob. And I talk a lot about Gilligan's Island in there. In this book, and I just have to show you because I love it. I'm so proud of it. But in this book, Island to Icon, I tell stories. It's not like it's full of, it's really such a scrapbook for any classic TV, Bob Denver, Gilligan's Island fan. It's loaded with pictures, certainly stories that I intersperse all through the book. So there are some of those stories, but it's also got memorabilia in there that is pretty exciting. I'm going to tell you about one. I'm not going to tell about all of them, but one, when I decided to do this book in commemoration of the 60th anniversary, when I decided to do it, I was going through every nook and cranny of my house, finding everything I could find, get my hands on. And there was a box up in my closet that I looked at and thought, I don't know what's in there. I don't think I've ever looked through that box. Of course, Bob and I hadn't either. But Bob's mother, who I will refer to as Gran, Gran was the keeper of the stuff. Bob, I'd have nothing if it were up to Bob. And so I opened this box, and there are telegrams from studio executives congratulating him on getting the part of Maynard, just all kinds of things. One thing I found, though, a stack of cards. It blows me away. A stack of cards that I'm going through, and there is a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays postcard to Bob from Elvis and the Colonel. Hello. I'd had that in my possession for 35 years and had no idea.
Wow.
I can't believe it. So there are little Easter eggs like that all through the book. And it really is a treasure, I think, for any fan of classic TV.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I don't know if Neil, I don't know if you know this, but I did a little digging, and that Bob and Dreama were on both Fantasy Island and the Love Boat together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Dreama, were there any like unexpected, stories or anything that stands out, around those times compared to Gilligan's Island times? And
Well, on Love Boat, he did it 4 different times. But we got to do the cruise to Acapulco. So that was pretty,
cool.
that was pretty exciting. We were actually on the Love Boat, cruising down the coastline. So that was lovely. The thing I remember most about Fantasy Island is Ricardo Montalban. He was just such a gentleman, truly, in every sense of the word. He was so lovely and gracious and kind to everybody, I'm sure, whoever did that show. And then there was Hervé, who was different and very, very interesting, an interesting person, very different than Ricardo, but
Yes.
still really
Yes.
interesting in his own right. So I love that. And then Bob and I I was in the third Gilligan's Island movie, which was called The Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island. I played Mrs. Howell's social secretary in that movie. That was fun. I got to play basketball with the original Globetrotters, you
Oh,
guys.
wow. That's
Now,
so
how
cool.
jealous are you? Really
I'm
jealous,
very,
right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
am.
And we're talking Goose and Curly and Meadowlark and,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
those are the
and
ones I
Sweet
grew up
Lou
with.
and all those guys. Oh, they were so great. It was wonderful. And then Bob and I also did a pilot for a TV series for NBC. And that pilot was called Scamps. And I'm guessing you guys know who I'm talking about when I talk about Joey Lawrence.
Yes.
Yes, from Blossom and
Yeah.
Give Me a Break and all that.
Yeah.
The first thing series wise that he ever did in Hollywood was the show Scamps with Bob and me, and he was 5 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
I'm telling you, I talk about feeling old now when I see him because he's so grown up and grown kids and all of that. But I tell you, our son that Bob and I had together is here on this earth because I fell so in love with Joey Lawrence. I was like, I want one of those. He was the sweetest kid. He was so talented, so smart. And so, yeah, you know, there've been some real highlights, really fun things that this little girl, originally from West Virginia, never dreamed she would get to do that I've gotten to do.
And that's the lifestyle that you never know where you're going to go and who you meet. And with Bob, what are we going to be most surprised about in the book about Bob that we might not?
The thing, well, I have no surprises myself because I knew him so well. I think a thing that would surprise fans,
The fans,
you know, because they know him as Gilligan, and some know him as Maynard G. Krebs from Debbie Gillis. And I think, you know, those characters were very innocent. Gilligan was a bit of a nebbish, always messing up, you know. And I think people would be really surprised to know how highly intelligent Bob was. He was so well read, read all the time. And I love when people come up to me and they say, you know, oh, he had to be smart to play that part, because that really is true. You do have to have intelligence to be able to play that you don't have intelligence. And he was, you know, we were invited to the White House twice back in the 90s. And those pictures are also in the book. But we were there. And what surprised me is Bob was equally as at ease with the president of the United States at the time as he was with, you know, the guy helping him pick out paint down at Lowe's. And he was equally interested in both people. I love that about him. He had great curiosity about people and things and places. And he passed that on to me. He passed a lot of things on to me. I consider him my greatest teacher. I really do.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, talking about that, looking back on your lives together, what's a favorite memory that, you know, always brings a smile to your face? You know, a moment that I guess truly embraces and embodies the, you know, the Bob that you knew and loved in your relationship.
Anything about our days on Kauai. any time period, any day of the week, any hour of the day. We had beautiful, beautiful times there. And one time I remember in particular it was Christmas time. And, you know, you would think that Christmas in Hawaii wouldn't feel like Christmas if you're used to snow and all the things I had been used to growing up. But they have a really beautiful thing with poinsettias. They grow all over the island at Christmas time. You can see fields of them. So that's very Christmassy feeling. But one day we had rented a home on the beach up above Honolulu, the North Shore of Kauai. And we had gotten home, I think, from shopping, maybe grocery shopping, and looked out the front window, and there were rainbows everywhere. There was a thing with Bob and me and rainbows. That always kind of surprises me. They're everywhere. They were all over the sky. It wasn't just one. It was multiple ones, you know, and we took one look, and of course we were drawn outside right away, ended up in the ocean, splashing around under the rainbows. That was the best Christmas ever. And then we had one time, he also loved the Rocky Mountains. And we had one time when we were driving through the Rocky Mountains, and I promise you, there was a rainbow that went over top of us, one end on my side of the car, one end on his. And that rainbow, we drove in that rainbow for hours. It was It was the weirdest thing. It was like it just never went away. It was just always there. So I just figure, rainbows are a promise to begin with. And that I feel is and was just a promise about our life together, no matter how stressful it got. And we did have stressful times, certainly. Bob and I, you may or may not know this, but we had one child together, and our son was diagnosed with severe autism. And the reason I wrote Gilligan's Dreams and what I wanted people to know about Bob was that though he was not a perfect human being, none of us are, he set aside Hollywood and everything, series work, all that kind of stuff for the last 20 years of his life to be with me and give our son full-time care.
Oh,
And that is honorable and worth, fans who loved him. I just want them to know he was worth it. He really was a good human,
Wow, that's great.
So are you doing a lot of personal appearances for Gilligan's Island all the time, representing Bob?
I do. I love showing up and representing Bob is one of my favorite things in the world. I am leaving tomorrow, actually, for Mount Airy, North Carolina, where I'm going to be doing Mayberry Days. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but I'm telling you, 35 years it's been going on, and they celebrate the Andy Griffith Show. And the reason I get to represent Bob there is because Bob did the Andy Griffith Show. He did one episode. And because of that one episode, I get to go be part of the Mayberry family, which is fun. So I love that. I'll have my book there. That's exciting. So, I do the cons, the Comic-Cons and all of that when I'm asked to do it and love it. Right now, we are working on, this is kind of, it's not a secret, but it's early stages. We are working on a documentary about Bob that the working title is I Heart Bob Denver. We're working on that. I have meetings about that tomorrow. And then we are also working on, they want to call it a one-woman show, but I feel like that means I need to tap dance and sing, and that's not going to happen. So I'm calling it A Conversation with Dreama Denver, or A Conversation with Mrs. Gilligan, if you prefer. I love being called that. And that would be a stage show that we're finalizing on that too, where I would come to your town, to your little theater, and tell our story, plus have question and answers and answer periods and all that. So I'm looking forward to that, getting that up on its feet and going. So we have a lot of things in the works right now.
Yeah, it sounds like you're super busy. One question I was thinking about, as you were talking earlier about the last 20 years, in what ways was Bob like Gilligan or not like Gilligan in real life?
Well, let's see. He was a mixture of the two characters. If you guys remember Maynard at all, Maynard was a beatnik from Dobie Gillis, first beatnik on television. Bob was the Fonzie of that era of TV. He was the breakout star on the show. And he loved jazz, and he loved all those things that Maynard loved. So he had that in common with that character. And then with Gilligan, I'm not looking with rose-colored glasses. He was just a really sweet human being, a very good soul, a great heart. And I think Gilligan had all those things. He was just so much smarter than either one of them.
Right.
So, he had the really good qualities of both characters, I think, but was really so much smarter than either one of those characters were.
Wow. And I guess it's great to see the fans of your late husband, how they're from different generations, right? That's got to be great.
That's for sure. And thank you for bringing that up, because it gives me the opportunity to say something that I don't say nearly often enough, and I'm going to start saying it because it's true. Bob left me such a legacy of love with all the fans. When I go do the cons, the Comic-Cons and the shows that I do, the personal appearances, people want to like me because they loved him. And happily, I think they do like me on my own. But all of that love they felt for that character and that person spills over onto me. And that is a gift. It's a blessing. It truly is. It's just a blessing to have a husband whose character was so well liked and so well loved, and so you have such longevity that that benefits me by allowing me to represent him and write about him. And kind of, I read a review recently that said I was his official biographer, which I never thought of myself that way, but it's true. I have, written now 2 books about him. And of course, I have his book, which he wrote back in 1993, which was called Gilligan, Maynard, and Me. So I'm telling you, among those 3 books, if you have all 3 of those, baby, you got the whole 9 yards right there.
All right.
It's really great.
All right. So, Greg, you ready for your last question?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I am
Should I
ready.
be scared?
Yes. You
Oh
should.
no.
Oh,
not at all.
No,
No.
it's iconic what Greg's asked so many different celebrities from all different backgrounds and different things. And
Yeah.
let's go with it.
Rock stars, authors,
Yeah.
actors.
I am scared. Okay.
No, not at all. It's a very simple question, but it does a lot for me because I love to learn from people, right? Because success leaves clues for sure in life. And, it's always great to learn from people who have achieved more or different than you have. So my
Sure.
question for you, Dreama, is what do you feel is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
Oh, wow. So many things. I have to pick one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Just on the spot here. I think faith is huge for me. That changed my life. Having a real relationship was the most important thing. And that really came to me in a profound way about 10 years after Bob passed away, where I really looked back on those 10 years when I had been left alone and terrified, so scared. And I looked back and I could see God's hand in so much of what had happened in my life. That is really, that was the big thing for me when I really understood that I wasn't alone, because I felt very, very alone for a while there. And so that was wonderful. And then I think, another thing is not to take yourself too seriously, because, we should, I think I'm judging by social media here, where people come on, they complain about so many things, and I'm not picking on anybody out there. I'm just saying that, and I'm older now, and I look at things differently now than I used to. And I think in the scheme of things, what you're complaining about is so trivial, or whatever issue you have with whatever the issue is, it's just, let's enjoy life. We have this one life here on earth, as far as we know. And I don't know, is that getting too deep? I don't mean
No,
to.
it's just great. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
this is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
Because-
yeah, go ahead.
No, it just is faith has just been huge for me. And I am so grateful to God that I have faith and that I understand the importance of it. I think especially nowadays, the world has gone insane. I don't care what side you're on of any issue. It's crazy time. So that keeps me centered, keeps me solid.
Right.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's a common response. We've gotten that a few times.
Yeah,
over
no
Have you
doubt.
really?
our interviews.
Yeah, you
we
have to go back through all of them. Go to
I will.
tomc3.com and click on his celebrity interviews live from the grotto. And
Okay.
Steve co-hosts some amazing interviews that he asked this question. And it's really good to go back through them all, because you can learn so much, Greg, about specific things.
Yeah.
I think a book's entailed. We'll have to get to every one of them, but I'm thinking of that. So, all right.
Yeah,
So-
I was thinking about doing that. I don't know if it's legal,
No, it is legal. You can just reach out to
Yeah.
one of the publicists. That's it. I own pretty much an interview, so we'll figure it out. So, all right. Okay. We appreciate it. Where can we purchase your book and learn more about you, Dreama? Best place.
All right. I'm going to show it one more time, because isn't that
Yeah.
just a beautiful
Yeah.
cover? And right here, Island Icon, The Many Lives of Bob Denver. The Bob Denver is actually his autograph, which I love. We
Oh,
did
yeah.
that. But if you'd like an autographed copy, autographed by me, You can get that at bobdenver.com. And I will, those orders come directly to me and I can autograph them. If you are a Prime, Amazon Prime person, I know a lot of people are, it is available on Amazon Prime. It is doing really well on Amazon Prime. It will not be autographed because I never see those, but it will. I don't get to see the orders there, but they'll get it to you. What if you're a Prime member? You get it in 2 days. So if you're a bobdenver.com person, then you'll get it pretty fast too. I'm going to try to be as good and quick as Amazon is. I'm going to try.
Well, that's going to be quite a feat to do that. But hey, jot down my name because I'll be ordering that, and I definitely want an autographed one. So,
all right.
All right. We appreciate it, Dreama. Thanks again.
Listen, thank you for having me. I've had so much fun.
Absolutely.